Let's do the final piece of sound today. This is, who is this guy from TPUSA?
He's just a new hack.
Okay, he's a new hack. He's on Fox and Friends, and he's going to just blame the reason that people are afraid of the police, Black Americans in particular, is because celebrities are telling them to be afraid.
This is the next guy that Dave Chappelle's going to go after instead of Candace Owens.
Yes. I don't think he'll get that far, but maybe.
No.
Of you are watching this for the first time, and I definitely wanted to share it. A dad posted this video of his son. He's playing basketball, right? And a cop car comes by, and he quickly ducks behind the car, hiding from the police as he comes past. And he later would say, I was afraid that he was going to choke me, come by and choke me like he did George Floyd, and then went back to playing. So that's a kid with his perception of police. What do you take away from this?
Yeah. I think it's heartbreaking, Brian. It really is heartbreaking. And I think that the reason why there is this idea that police officers are sort of on the attack, kind of like hunting black men on the attack to kill black men, it's something that's really being perpetuated by mass media right now. We've got celebrities, entertainers, pop culture, all of that stuff permeates the media. And it sends this message that is not the right message to African Americans, that their lives are somehow in danger whenever they have a police interaction or whenever they see police officers around. It's really unfortunate, and I think the way, Brian, that we combat this is providing positive examples of police officers, but also we have to start highlighting the millions of African-American police officers that are out there protecting their streets and their cities every single day. I think that we too often get bogged down in this narrative that all police officers are white and all criminals or all victims of police brutality are black, and we really have to
All right. I let me just say this, first of all, that if you want to look at this stuff through a class lens, there are numbers for that too. That if you look at where there are police encounters and fatalities, it is minuscule in neighborhoods, less than 10% neighborhoods with a median average of income of over $100,000 a year. And that the massive and vicious racial disparities in policing, which I'm going to talk about in a second, is not only backed up by endless pieces of data, it does tend to be concentrated in geographic centers like Chicago and New York and so on. And in addition to that, there is proportionally some of the highest states with police fatalities in terms of encounters include New Mexico, Oklahoma, Alaska. And I just want to make this point because the main job he's doing there is this disgusting infantilizing of Black people and the fear of policing, which is there is just sort of endless abundance of reason for, and you can look at the data and just talk to basically anyone. But also that when they point out that there are cases that it is not just like a strict one-to-one, that there's police who happen to come from Black or Hispanic backgrounds who engage in brutality, and there's also white victims of police brutality. The answer is like, yes, exactly. So don't you want to take on this issue as well? Isn't this clearly signs of a very big problem that implicates class, geography, and race?
And guns also,
and police with guns, and the training methodologies, and what they're incentivized to do. I mean, there is this horrifying, evil video that came out a couple of years ago of, I think, a man. I'm assuming he was having some type of sort of mental episode. It was a white man. They're telling him to crawl towards the police. They're holding guns on him, and they're telling him to crawl, and then they murder him. And they're laughing while they do it. Now, every time there is a new uprising, some right-wing asshole points out, uses this and goes, "Oh, see?" And so the answer is, okay, yes, sure, see. So shouldn't you be out on the streets too? Shouldn't you be urgently concerned about this as well? You're making the joke of a murder video just to justify the police harassment of Black people. And just really quick, this is from the Washington Post. Stop and frisk data, for example, consistently shows about 3% of these encounters produce any evidence of crime. So 90% of people are getting punished solely because they belong to a group. New York Times examination after the death of George Floyd found that Black people make up 19% of the Minneapolis population, 9% of its police, and they were on the receiving end of 58% of the city's police use of force incidents. A massive study published in May 2020, 95 million traffic stops by 56 police agencies between 2011 and 2018 found that Black people were much more likely to be pulled over than whites. The disparity lessens at night when the police are less able to distinguish based on the race of the driver. It goes on and on and on. And you can look at those class-based statistics as well. There's a great piece by Adolph Reed in Non-Site. So this is just disgusting, infantilizing, and what you would expect from TPUSA and Fox News.
Yeah. Well, they're doing what the right always does, which is to say, saying it's the ones who are calling attention to racism who are the real racists, right? And they're getting people all upset about problems that don't exist when we all know that, the problems do exist. Also, like you're saying, it's not only a Black issue. It is disproportionately and oftentimes a Black issue, but, working class white people are killed as well by the cops. But like even on a grander level than that, it's an issue that affects everyone, right? Because white supremacy is a tool of capitalist domination and exploitation. And if we ever want to get working class power in this country, we have to fight racism. We have to fight all of the ideologies that divide the working class and keep them separate. And not to mention the police are they're an instrument of class rule. They arose to catch runaway slaves. They arose to break strikes. And every person who wants liberation for themselves and for others should care about this issue.
Word.